This movie makes me wish I was watching Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Hello everyone, welcome to my review of The Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, or The Mummy 3, whatever. Okay, so for a long time the Mummy series had been sort of, well, it was on a bit of a hiatus, not quite sure why. But the first and second film. The first film came out in 1999. Mummy Returns came out in 2001. This movie came out in 2008. So 7 years later. And was it worth the wait? Hell no. Oh my god, this movie's so bad. I mean, but let's just start where it starts. The plot. Oh my goodness. The plot is that there is this Chinese emperor who remains nameless throughout the whole movie. He wants to divide and conquer basically the entire world, build up an empire, and he is about to be assassinated one night, and then he decides to overthrow China, and he builds the Great Wall of China, and then he decides he wants immortality, so he can rule forever. He sends his general to find this sort of witch, or seamstress, or whatever you call it, and the general sort of falls in love with her, and they have a kid who appears later on in the movie. But the witch, instead of granting him immortality, curses him and his army. She doesn't mummify him. No, she doesn't. She basically turns him and his army to stone in some of the worst visual effects I've seen for a while. Yeah. And then, obviously, the other characters, the O'Connells. It's been a long time since The Mummy Returns. Rick and Evie are finally settling down. They're pretty much, well, I won't say retired. They're done with the whole, mummies and adventures and stuff like that. Evie is an author, so they're very rich. They live in the mansion, and as they have done in the second film, we've returned to the mansion that they live at in England. Yeah, and they're pretty much on their own. We're also reintroduced to Alex, who played by Luke Ford, who is he skipped college to go and, go on adventures to uncover, to find the tomb of the Dragon Emperor, hence the title. So, yeah, he's all grown up now. Yeah, suddenly has an American accent. Yeah, and the plot moves along, and then, Alex and his parents end up in Shanghai, and also Jonathan, who owns a nightclub there called Imhotep's, which is awesome. And they end up getting press-ganged into another adventure to stop the Emperor from obtaining the Eye of Shangri-La, which is like this diamond which shows the way to Shangri-La, and the Emperor, the Emperor wants his immortality, and he wants to rule. So yeah, sorry that was a long explanation, but it's quite a big plot, and to be honest, it's a complete mess of gobbledygook. This movie sucks so bad. I mean, when I first saw it in cinema, I was like 11, so I wasn't exactly aware of how films were made, and I just sort of enjoyed it for the fun ride. And to an extent, they do. There are some, not many, but some fun scenes in the movie. So to an extent, they have kind of maintained the tone, but it doesn't help that they changed directors. Rob Cohen doesn't know what he's doing. This movie completely focuses all on the action, and that is the worst possible thing that I could say about it. And I mean, the plot is just ludicrous. Since when do mummies ever appear in China? And it shouldn't be called the Mummy, because the guy wasn't even mummified. The nameless emperor, played by Jet Li, he's not even mummified. Like he's turned to stone, and then he's resurrected, and it's a complete mess. It's only called the Mummy because it's part of the series. It's another adventure with those same characters. Well, a couple of new ones. The characters. Admittedly, the characters aren't too bad. I mean, I like Rick O'Connell. I think Brendan Fraser's great as Rick O'Connell. John Hannah returns as Jonathan. His comedy is still great. Not as good as the first two, but he's still got some good comedy. New cast members. Maria Bello replaces Rachel Weisz as Evie. I'm not quite sure to why they had to recast Evie. If somebody could let me know in the comment section below, that would be good. But as far as Maria Bello is concerned, she's okay. I mean, I don't. She can be a bit annoying sometimes, like some of the way she speaks. Like she kind of sounds a bit pompous at some point. She's like, "We've got to get him to Shangri-La now. It's our only chance." I mean, come on. Like Rachel Weisz sounded, formal, but seriously, she didn't sound pompous. I mean, Maria Bello has this kind of thing that she pretends to act. She's like, I don't know. Some of the scenes, it's just annoying. It's just like, why do you have to talk with such a posh dialect? I know, the character's from England, and it's like, oh, Jonathan, get in the back. Where do you think? Like all that kind of. It just doesn't feel right. I think her portrayal of Evie is somewhat confusing. I'm not quite sure what she's trying to do with the character. I believe sort of that Rachel Weisz sort of got the character. She got it, and I think in the second film she definitely improved the character. In this, there's literally no character development whatsoever. I mean, what they tried to do is develop the father-son relationship. That cliched, thing where the boy kind of, the son kind of doesn't get on with his dad, and blah blah blah. And you just don't care. Luke Ford as Alex. He's nothing. He is neither great nor terrible. He's just nothing. I don't even know what to say about him. I mean, first of all, why the hell does the character have an American accent? In the second film, he was a boy, but he had a British accent. So couldn't Luke Ford have tried to give a British accent? It seemed a bit inconsistent to me. Other new characters such as Lynn. Okay, I guess Lynn. I like Lynn. She's not a bad character. Isabella Leong's quite good. The forced love story is really annoying. It can get annoying, but it's not something that. I mean, how many love stories do you see shoehorned into movies? I mean, it doesn't detract from the movie, but it's just kind of like, well, you don't really need this. You don't need this. Michelle Yeoh as Zeun, she's good. She's a bit wasted. She doesn't really get much to do. Much the same with the Emperor, but played by Jet Li. Characters just get nothing to do. Liam Cunningham was quite a funny character. He was good. Yeah. There are some nice scenes in here. There are some nice comedy scenes, especially from John Hannah. But this movie is fairly action orientated. I mean, don't get me wrong. Some of the action sequences are exciting and pretty intense, but I wouldn't go out of my way to watch this movie again. I mean, it was hard enough watching it now. I mean, it's crap. it's a load of crap. I mean, just the whole concept is like, I admire the movie for trying to be different, but Jesus Christ, when the hell do you find mummies in China? I admire it for trying to be different, you know, not to use Egypt like they did in the first two. I mean, if Imhotep came back again, that would be kind of annoying. So I'm kind of glad they tried to go for a more original setting and concept, but China, out of all the places, I mean, come on, that's really scraping the bottom of the barrel. And the direction is just like there is no direction. The direction by Rob Cohen is that there is no direction. It's a movie that is out of control. Doesn't know too many characters that it knows how to deal with. Too much action, far too much action. I mean, I like the action, but I thought it gets tiring towards the end. This movie's only 1 hour 50 minutes long. It gets tiring, and you know, yeah. Although I do like some of the comedy, and like, you know, I like the characters. I love the characters. I think they're great. I love seeing, well, most of the characters anyway. I love seeing where the characters are. Many, you know, after all this time, after the Mummy Returns, which was in the movie's timeline, I think about 15 years before. Obviously, for the viewers, it's 7 years. But yeah, the movie is an absolute mess, and it should never have happened. And like just the whole concept of, you know, the Emperor, you know, he can control the elements, you know, he can turn into monsters, you know, what can't he do? Seriously, the guy, you know, what are his motives? Like, what? We don't get any information. Don't just give me, you know, random stuff. You know, it's just such a mess. I mean, some of the visual effects are quite good, but some of them are quite poor. Like the scene where the Emperor gets turned to stone. The visual effects are so bad there. It's awful. It's an awful film. One of the worst conclusions to a trilogy I've ever seen. You know, I mean, it can't really get much worse than this. And you know, you get, you know, the Yeti as well. You know, they come in. It's just. It's so pointless. It's just such a pointless. It's a cash grab, basically. It's a cash grab. It's like, oh yeah, the Mummy franchise. That, you know, that's still going. We could do another one. We could do a third one. Yeah, but they didn't even try. Although I have to admit, the music is pretty amazing, and I think that the music does enhance some of the action sequences, and the music for the end credits title sequence, the end title sequence, is amazing. Like, I think the track is called "A Call to Adventure." I've used it for the reviews, and it's a pretty great track. I do love it. But yeah, no, it's just hordes of battles and fights, and you know, obviously the locations are quite diverse, so that is probably what holds it over the other movies in that respect. Is that the only thing that is better than the previous movies is the locations. The locations are more diverse. You know, we get to go to Shanghai, we get to go to the Himalayas. It's you know, it's great. And you know, Shangri-La, obviously, you know, it's very diverse in that respect, and you know, visually not stunning, visually quite appealing in some areas. Some of the standout action scenes are probably, well, the Himalayas battle until the Yeti turn up, because I thought they just got stupid after that. The standout action scene is probably the chase during Shanghai. And then, I mean, then the final battle is quite good, but it really, you know, it goes on, and there's just so much action, and it's just a movie that is out of control. The script is okay, a few cheesy lines, but you know, you can pass those off. Ultimately, it's just a mess, an absolute mess of a movie, and it should never have happened. And you know, what should have happened differently. To be fair, I'm kind of glad they made a third one, because you know, I think it was nice that, you know, we get to have it now as a trilogy, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, well, if it was going to end up like this, then no. So I mean, yeah, The Mummy, The Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, it's really crap. I mean, the character of Roger Wilson, when we are revealed that he is, you know, he has betrayed the O'Connells. It's such a very abrupt thing, you know, like they're laughing and joking a minute, and then he's like, you know, let me introduce you to a friend of mine, General Yang. It's just like, well, that was quick. What the fuck? That was so quick. I mean, oh, gosh. I mean, just everything, the whole story, like, oh, pierce through his heart, and then he will die. But, oh, gosh, you know, it's just, the movie does not know what it wants to be. It's just so bad. It's just so bad, and I gotta be honest with you. I thought it was an utter disgrace to the other two movies, and it doesn't feel like it belongs in the trilogy. I mean, you get, you know, the odd installment in some film series that don't belong in the series, and you know, this is one of those cases. The Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor does not belong in the Mummy trilogy. It should not be here, but you know, sadly, it is the third movie in the trilogy. This was how it turned out, and unfortunately, it was crap. So yeah, basically, I'm pissed off at how this movie is, and Stephen Sommers, who directed the first two movies, actually produced this, which shocks me even more. So I wish that he would have directed this movie, because at least he could have made something out of this pile of crap. I mean, oh gosh, it's just a mess. A mess. And on that note, I'm going to close this off by, I'm going to give the movie 4 out of 10. Because I love the music, I like the characters and the acting and some of the comedy. But yeah, there's no character development, no story. The story is awful. Some very poor visual effects. It's kind of boring as well. I mean, there are some fun scenes, but quite a few of the scenes are boring. quite frankly, they are boring. But that's, you know, that's the way it goes, and unfortunately, yeah, that was the end of the Mummy trilogy. Jesus Christ. Sorry. I do like how at the end of the movie Jonathan heads out and he's like, I'm off to Peru. Like, and then, you know, there's the little text on screen that said, soon after mummies were found in Peru. That was funny. But yeah, not good. So now I am going to carry on with the Alien reviews because, you know, I just thought one time I don't know, I was on this website. I was requested to write a story for the Mummy, a sequel to this, and I thought to myself, I haven't reviewed the movies on my channel. So yeah, and you know, there are kind of horrific moments in those movies. Well, this movie doesn't really have horrific moments, but there you go. Anyway, I'm going to close this off because I'm struggling to talk because I am unwell. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and otherwise I missed Service 11. See ya.